Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Let me go ahead and, man, I just don't get prepared at these, do I? Let me just turn off the lights in my room so I can actually start to see. It's not particularly dark right now, but we definitely are potentially going to hit that point. I want to get this like one document, which I have to fight the menu just to be able to highlight it. There's also a tomb here, but I think we had already done that too. Yeah, all the tombs are marked in the hidden city. If you look in the lower left hand corner too, you can also see that we just have like full on inventory on everything, and honestly I don't think that there's actually much left. Maybe there's one more gun, or maybe a whole collection of things we unlock later on in the game after we beat the final act. But just everything else here has been acquired, and so I might as well start to think about selling all of the resources I have. Like, I pretty much have a full-on collection of all the secondary fire weapons and the main fire weapons, and I could buy bullets if I wanted to. It's just hardly going to be a game where we do a lot of bullet purchasing anyways. I kind of feel like these Cult of Kubla Khan things that are hanging here weren't hanging before. Wow, I can't run, so I can't jump. I'm locked into a walking section, which maybe means I can't actually go anywhere. Like, I'm trying to get, I guess, up and over there into the upper city. And so I'm hoping that this is the actual correct direction to go. But we are trapped in wearing the Serpent Guard outfit, and we are trapped in being only able to walk in this section. Once I crawl through this section, it's rather bemusing that the walk experience, I still am trapped walking even until I get to this point. It just doesn't ring logical that there really would be any point in the game where you were locked into a walking section. If anything, it just really highlights the continued problem of this game, in that there's not enough mobility, not enough movement tech. It's all extremely limited, and frankly just not anywhere as acrobatic as far as Lara Croft of previous versions of Lara Croft would have been. Right, so we're finding a map which potentially unlocks more things to collect, although in reality I don't think it can really highlight anything more, because we're at 94% and we'd already revealed everything. We have a side mission here to continue. Get more XP.
The Paititians who wrote this believed that something
be
called
nice
the Yashiel lived beneath Paititi.
Once you completed something,
record,
if you got
these beings are
2 to
strongest in
500 XP
astrological
instead of
events,
just
which is
100.
consistent with the legends,
It
but they
feels like
also
you get about
attack and
100.
feed on humans, but that's not the behavior that usually appears in the stories. From this description, what they call the Yashiel is the same type of creature I encountered in Kawakyaku.
They have done really a terrible job as far as the whole Yashiel characters.
When the crimson fire smokes, seek your mirror. Bit enigmatic that. I wonder what it's supposed to mean.
So yeah, I just Myth, Magics, and Monsters was completed. I just got 75 XP for that. And yeah, I really am just kind of confusing the side missions, which are much more better written and interesting, with the artifact threads, of which there just seems like there's still more than you would think. I guess this one and this one are DLC stories, so they'll be completed by doing the DLC side missions, which then leaves you with just pretty much these three, it looks like. And Lore's Notebook, which I kind of feel like Lore's Notebook does not finish until you have the entirety of the game finished. That would be my suspicion. Now I want to fast travel here, but then that's going to require me to walk back through the temple and back to this spot. And unfortunately, I just don't think there's a better solution here. Ideally, what you'd want to do is, we're facing the right direction, you'd like to be able to just run this way and then climb on this, get to the top of this, make a mad jump from like this point down to this point and shortcut your way in that way. Otherwise I have to kind of run back through here and through here, which maybe we can figure that out. We also
maybe these rebels will give up after they see what happens when they get caught.
Basically have done nothing in this upper city. Running downstairs, you're not really gaining that much speed. Okay. I overshot it as far as the bridge. Or I actually didn't overshoot it, but it seems like you overshoot it because then you have to go here. Now, here's the thing here is you're getting this quick save and then you once again have a slowed down experience. I may not even just be able to get around. Weird that you're squeezing between people. That feels like something that the game developers were probably way more proud of than they should have been, and that they've said we've taken our let's hide a load section between squeezing between doors and have it squeeze through people exactly once in the game, which is not impressive. So now we're back in the village and we can start to approximate. A lot of blue here. I wonder if I've actually been in this area before. It's hard to tell. I guess we're also in a weird situation where you really wouldn't benefit much from even selling the items I have. Like, might as well just let it be at maximum. could always make more arrows and stuff like that, but once it's maximum, it's just maximum. Okay. So we need to get here. And before, previously, it has been that these two were here. And unlike the other characters, I can't bump into these characters. I can't get behind them. And I seriously doubt there's enough movement tech here to get like a bunny hop on the head of one of the characters. If I could climb up here, that might be something. But yeah, I'm ultimately just very confused as to why this section is blocked off when that seems like that is the climb section to get up there. Unless there was some other way up there, because it is further behind. But we've been through this a couple times and it just doesn't seem like there is another section or another way up there. You go lower and lower trying to reach
All full up. Can't carry any more.
that whole section. So maybe there's some DLC element there. I don't know. We might as well just get this survival cache and move this story forward, since I don't have any other options. I guess if I do all of the DLC stuff and I still haven't found it, it does seem like there is something buried in any somewhat out of place empty spot of circular stuff. So we're going the correct way. We're going to go take out, I think, some of the cult of Klugerklan, whatever, however that's pronounced, and we're helping out somebody who's seeking revenge. The mud proving once again to be really dumb. The mud must exist to hide loads. That this just slows down the player from getting around this corner, and whatever slows down the player from getting around this corner lets the level load in faster. Particularly, I imagine you'd have to assume that that's for consoles that couldn't keep up, and not specifically for PCs that may have equipment or hardware that could keep up. You can see how the census mode here is way more useful if you wanted to hunt some more. You still really have the problem though with the hunting that there is not quite enough XP and not quite enough of a reason to hunt. Particularly if you have a DLC outfit that breaks the game and gives you extra hides from hunting animals. The game definitely wouldn't have been better though if I had been forced to hunt twice as often just to collect hides, just to craft and upgrade weapons and outfits.
Hakan, are you...
Through here, quickly. Lara, run!
They want to knock the guy out and not use their obsidian swords.
Just in time to watch your friend die.
Wait.
She doesn't have the mask on, so...
Perhaps there is another way. Laura, is it?
Go on.
A deal. You do something for us, and your friend lives.
That easy. Why?
Because you impress me. You've proven to be quite resourceful since you've arrived in Paititi.
Lara, don't do it. Don't give it to him.
What is it you want?
The Godslayer, of course. Isn't that why you're here?
Don't listen to him.
Amaru issued a challenge himself. Whoever can possess the Godslayer may challenge him to the throne. Didn't your friend tell you what he's after? Interesting. But not my problem. Through there lies your challenge.
So this
Retrieve the
random
Godslayer and
masked
return it to
guy
me, and your
potentially wants to challenge for control.
or no.
Lara,
I imagine we don't have
If
an
we
option.
have so much as a scratch on him when I get back, you all die.
Again, we're getting way better of an animated cutscene, way more interesting of a
Save your
story.
bravado for what lies ahead.
So this is going to get us into some DLC tomb. Complete the challenge tomb that apparently is just in front of you. I don't even see it. So, am I supposed to turn around and try and stealth in the bushes? I think they'd see me coming. You're facing this way, so the assumption is that it's somewhere towards these rocks, and you have that light reflecting here, but none of that seems to really be the case. Let's get underwater and see if we can find an entrance. Like, let's take a zoom out and just make sure that this isn't actually pointing us in some like weirdly far away location. Looks like the challenge tomb is way over here. That seems weird. Notice I'm also not able to jump out of the water except for in just one spot. Why? At what point in the game would it have been dangerous for me to be unable to climb out of the water at other spots? So Lara Croft potentially could just get the Godslayer, I assume, weapon of some sort, and then challenge the Amaru Dr. Dominguez character for control of Paititi, as crazy as that might sound, and then that would like ruin Dr. Dominguez's plans. Okay, we only have a bow and arrow here, so if we start getting attacked by wolves in here, any more growling happening here? It is an incredibly broken system,
All full up.
obviously,
Can't carry anymore.
that you can just get a skill that gives you full draw potential on your bow and arrow, and then you're just left trigger, right trigger, shooting everything. And that is as good and awkwardly is as animated as shooting with a gun would be.
Space for that.
But clearly, the consistency of forcing people to use bows and arrows in this game has lost its logical purpose, and it would make a lot more sense for me to have walked in here with the standard Lara Croft 2 handguns and then been shooting at these and then having to potentially dodge and do cartwheels to the side. We're getting all kinds of magical abilities, particularly in this game, already through learning recipes and finishing tombs. It's not in any way crazy to get a magical ability to learn how to do cartwheels and backflips and side jumps. If anything, that's kind of just basic for most video games, that you have fairly acrobatic characters in many cases. Alright, so now we are back able to use any weapon we want. Not sure how many of them we really need to use. And there's no telling, nothing's marked on the map. They didn't bother with any of that for the DLC. And any collectible here will give me XP, but it won't move me towards 100% completion, because we're already there, and because
it shows many warriors braving a trial of water
it's
and
extra.
Fire. And here, the prize at the end. That must be the Godslayer.
I can already tell this is going to be one of these DLC tombs that's a little too big and a little too challenging.
The water's teeming with piranha. Easy enough. Avoid getting in the water.
Now, noticeably, I shot the bird, and it didn't attract the piranha. So, it would have been kind of interesting if there was some logic to that in any way. You do immediately have this problem now where there's not as much of a desire to get collectibles. Since we know that they are not necessarily important. Now this is an interesting...
The ground is sinking. I have to reach that raft. That gate is blocking the raft. There has to be a way to open it.
Interesting. We took damage in the water, but we're not actually like... We're not actually
there should be a way to open the gate
being
somewhere.
attacked by piranha in the way they're depicted before. And obviously we can't just shoot the piranha.
Of course, there are blades. Why would it be as easy as just opening a gate?
So, jump over those, and then just want enough room to rip.
I need to be more careful. Can't stay on the raft. I'll never fit through there.
Seems like everything is collapsing here. Quite the experiment we're having.
That was close.
So even if you wanted to just like target the howler monkers and things, you just don't have time for it. So that was another case where it felt like there was a split path which doesn't seem like it really matters.
Damn, another tight spot.
Now, as far as healing, do I actually need to heal? Well, I can see how this is fairly cinematic, but in a lot of ways this really probably should just be a cutscene. If you were to actually die here, you probably wouldn't want to engage with that a second time. Now, do these things kill you instantaneously if they're spinning? And they only hurt you if they're not spinning?
Incredible. This gate is massive. There must be a way to open it.
I don't even know what that is.
There must be a way to open the door.
Like, noticeably though, there's just not really a lot of side actions here. This does try an interesting experiment of just making the piranhas more of a threat.
Okay,
Where
now let's find a way around.
everywhere else in the game they're not really enough of a threat to matter.
Shit, the raft is stuck again. Focus, Lara, and a solution will present itself.
That's a slide
The raft
path.
is stuck. There must be a way to open this gate. It worked. One more to go.
Well, that was weird. So we're draining the whole temple.
Perfect. Now I can get that raft going again.
Notice that she's really talking to herself a lot, even when I'm not going into sense mode
Blades.
for a hint.
Why does it always have to be blades?
I think you run into a problem here, though. I don't know how you're gonna get around these. I guess maybe you'll just get lucky.
Another gate. Maybe it opens the same way as the others.
This is one of those puzzles, though, that you just have no chance.
Another locked gate. Has to be some way to open it.
Was I supposed to come over here?
Another locked gate. Has to be some way to open it.
Weirdly, it doesn't seem like this platform actually is going to sink down in any way. So they had to give you some level of safety there. Yeah, basically a zero chance that you would get through that whole sequence without dying. The game is not really
Maybe it opens the same way as the others.
gonna show you what to do.
I can't stay here. These platforms are sinking.
It definitely feels like the solution to this puzzle, though, is to have done that side and then do this side.
Just in time. Got to move.
Yeah, and this doesn't really feel like a sequence where you could have done much else in that, and it doesn't really feel like a sequence where they could have had different kinds of encounters. So I'd say this is an interesting experiment, but it's a great example of just like loading this experiment all in the same place when this gimmick could have been done like multiple times in multiple different places in the main game, where you are on a platform and you needed to raise or lower the water levels, or you needed to shoot targets that we have not seen in any other location in the game.
It shows a mortal man killing a god with a bow. He's taking his crown and the throne. It's the God Slayer. I must be close.
So they said fire and water, so last thing we did that involved fire was a nightmare. And I do think that is probably where we're gonna end up doing again. There are weird
At last, the God Slayer must be in there.
places here where it looks like you can go backwards. And that's another weird place where it took control of the character and camera away to show me. Well, I see this and then nothing below it. And weirdly we're being given bullets. And it seems to me like it's pretty obvious that this is going to cause something to happen. Pushing two switches to create effectively what is a loading elevator isn't the worst thought ever, but I guess I'm generally just glad that wasn't something that was a requirement.
The pool is emptying. I must have activated a security measure.
Okay.
More hazards. Have to stay on my toes.
This is gonna be harder to avoid. See, I don't know if I'm supposed to be trying to find a brief second where I'm safe to shoot, or am I supposed to just work my way around a full circle? See, weirdly, I probably would have thought I could kind of gone a shot backwards and shut off the other half of these fires, but I guess not. Right. This is the first time I've really had to craft arrows. But yeah, this definitely shows a different type of experience one could potentially have had with this game, where you would have had, like, I wonder where the checkpoints are going to be in this. It stops here, and so this is probably a halfway checkpoint. So pretty obviously there could have been a very different style of gameplay here, where you were constantly shooting arrows and just really making a meal out of come on. I guess the question is, do you really even have to cheat here? Or can you just, if you swim fast and have that swim fast ability, can you skip some of these? Definitely seems like they want to make it so you can recover if small mistakes are made. And you can kind of feel how, if this was a more traditional life bar type game mechanic, then I could potentially, through RPG elements, have increased my health. I kind of question if I if I put on like an endurance plant right now, which we've never even done that, so it's worth trying. Focus time, perception, and feels like my timing is off now because I haven't been using any of that. Yeah. Seems like if you're in the crawl animation, you will be safe no matter what. I don't know if maybe I'm supposed to not focus on that one yet. I think in that case I was supposed to hit both of those. And so we've got a checkpoint now. And how many times are we going around, I wonder? 2 already. Would be kind of okay if it was only 3. So I'm assuming the perception plant really doesn't do anything. Let's just go with the time slowdown plant and see if that helps us. But at least on your grid of 9 different...
There must be something blocking the tower mechanism. I've got to find out what it is.
Maybe we're climbing now. Interesting. That was not what I expected at all. Yeah, I can't imagine you're going to end up back on the raft, but maybe you will. Once again, we are just doing a tomb that centers around one large tower. And yeah, it's too repetitive. You could have easily shifted
now to climb to the top.
This so that the path was around 2 towers and the motion of the raft was actually like going around in a figure 8 shape. Am I supposed to jump against this rock or any of these rocks? Doesn't look like it. That being said, there's just some weird highlighted spots all over the place, so maybe we're coming down that way. Are we supposed to go up higher? Or are we supposed to be climbing? Kind of feels like we're just supposed to be climbing. But notice that there's no white paint on those rocks, even though there should be. So yeah, just take a moment and look at what looks like a lot of highlighted things that we did not interact with. It definitely gives off the feeling that these DLC tombs, even though they're far too large for their own good, just weren't given a final pass to kind of filter out elements that would be like red herrings and point the player into thinking that they would need to do something they don't need to do. Just a lack of QA polish, I'd say. I don't think the game is better by having red herrings, as it were, and having false paths and having extra things. So you look at this and what, you get a recipe on how to craft the Godslayer? Looting enemies yields more gold pieces. I also got an achievement for completing that challenge tomb.
Let's see what everybody's fighting over.
And I guess you get this special
And you must
loading
be the Godslayer.
section, the special animation. It's a shame that's in DLC because it would have kind of made sense every time you got a new item for something like that to pop up. And there you have a very nice animation showing her grabbing a bow, so it would have been very easy for her to potentially have grabbed a few more bows. Even though I still kind of feel like the bows don't make the most amount of sense being in this game now. Right. So we were then just fast traveled out of the spot. And so now I assume what we're going to run into is a scenario where the Cult of Kukulkan / Trinity is going to betray me. But I also wouldn't be surprised if our friend that we're helping and trying to save just decides to try and have vengeance and tries to escape or tries to kill people and ends up dying for his decision to chase off vengeance.
Can't carry anymore.
I weirdly have not unlocked what seems like a pretty obvious extra medicine. And I don't know how you would unlock that, nor do I think any of it matters. It is an incredibly sad statement to say this is the first time I've even had to think about using any of the medicines as far as the slow down time focus. Maybe that means I'm just slightly better than what they thought was average with the bow and arrow. I have done archery in the real world, and so yeah, maybe there's something to that, but I imagine also the game is just probably way too easy. At least by the end of the first act, I should have had to have been forced to use the slow down time focus ability. Maybe if you use the slow down focus ability, you could then take out enemies in some of the stealth sections a little bit better, whereas my experience in most stealth sections fall apart and I'm just pull out a gun and shoot them usually. So we're squeezing through a section like this. I don't think it actually would hurt Lara Croft's overall goal if she had just given the Godslayer to this other guy. It would have bred infighting amongst the Ku Klux Klan characters. Again, back to being low on arrows, because I assume I can't pull out a gun. Actually, I could. So it would make a lot of sense that I could just shoot these guys. And that might explain why they were giving me bullets before. We didn't get any indication that these Trinity Ku Klux Klan characters had poison on their blades. So while the guy is wounded, I don't immediately assume that it's a fatal wound. That's just another great example, though, of that somehow was supposed to be a stealth section, and I don't see how at all. I really have to question that one. I've questioned most of them, but it seemed like maybe if you could climb up here, you would have been safe. But there's no mud to hide your positions. There's no wide, like, there's no element at all to hide in. And so as soon as I just walked here, there was a guy looking at me. Was I supposed to just wait until he walked into a different pattern? It definitely feels like they very haphazardly programmed walking patterns into these characters and then didn't ever test it. They just didn't care. Which would also potentially explain why there's so few of them, if in that there potentially could have been twice as many of these stealth sections, and in these stealth sections the other half of them that aren't being shown in this game could have worked incredibly poorly, just like game-breakingly bad. Almost fell to my death because I didn't hit the X button. So we have to get to this bridge because we saw the other two over there. Like, feels like we're gonna do an Indiana Jones where he's gonna cut the bridge. Meanwhile, unless I am supposed to. Oh, left click does that. I forget how to tag things. Let's see. G, combat, hunting, skills, survival, losing arrows. So yeah, I can't even find in the survival guide what skills I'm looking for. It's probably under skills warrior if I was to guess. So aim with a fully drawn bow, hold the right trigger, then zoom on the right stick over up to 3 simultaneously. Alright, so fully drawn bow. Pull. 1, 2, 3. And then that's I guess maybe 3 headshots there. And that's cool to pull off and all, but I don't know if it really was worth a skill point to get that ability to use it literally once in the game. Again, I'm forming a narrative in my mind here that there potentially was twice as many of these stealth encounters with twice as many enemies, and they just were programmed so badly, or they performed so badly as an experience that they got half of them got removed. And then these skills would make a lot more sense if you were fighting a lot more. Seems pretty obvious here that they are trying to go for an encounter where you would create more conflict and like create a distraction so people actually would come and investigate bodies, and through the process of investigating bodies you would then be able to take out more and more of the people. And in fairness, that works. It just gets away from it being a stealth game at that point. It also makes it too low risk, too grindy. It feels like if there were 20 people in this section, I could literally shoot one person and then shoot the next and do it 19 more times in a row, and not a single character would change their behavior or have any kind of caution on the third or fourth body in a pile of bodies. And that's just straight up dumb AI. Dumb non-playable character programming, artificial intelligence, for what little we really mean when we say AI in video games, which is to say scripted actions, very simple scripted actions.
They're coming.
Who's coming? Where?
Shit!
Oh, so magically people are just shooting at me for a cutscene. And so now we have a quick time event that we don't do any other time. And a chase sequence. Of course, the game can't really have somebody chasing me because I would have just turned around and shot them. And then if I'd shot those two and then they spawned two more to shoot them to chase me, I would have shot them, and I could have just kept getting an infinite amount of enemies.
Because I'm ashamed.
Almost certainly what should have happened is I got way further away from the bridge. Once I got anywhere close to it, it should have just made a cutscene start earlier.
It was I who killed my wife. But he forced my hand. She was going to expose us, risk our daughter's future. I loved Atsi, but the cult was rooted deep in her.
So you murdered her?
I set her free, and now we'll be together again, far from his influence.
And Kiara? What of your daughter, Hakan?
It's been arranged. She'll be safe with Jaska. She'll raise her to be strong and kind and not like me.
The story here,
You heard.
still getting the dramatic pauses,
I knew.
but much
For a
better
long
written.
time, I hated him for it. But my sister was sick. She knew she was poisoned by the cult, but she was helpless to escape them.
I am sorry, Aaron.
Rest now, brother. Go and be with her.
Thank you, Lara, for everything you've done for my family.
I don't particularly love stories like this where it is fairly one-sided as far as the
Or if you
narrative
ever
you're
get a
getting.
chance.
I wouldn't be surprised if the wife told the story from a completely different perspective, being a murder victim. And being in the cult in general. So we apparently with the Godslayer can deal increased fire damage. And we now have like a fireproof outfit of sort, and it has fast traveled us back out of that scripted section, which in all fairness, I suspect we just can't go back through here. It's caved in, yeah. The two graves narrative, surprisingly, not having to do with seeking revenge as much as I thought it would. There's perhaps a little bit of revenge there, but it was more just on the idea that the wife died and the husband died, although the wife died at the husband's hands. I guess in general I just don't also like the idea of writing off people and saying, well, she was so brainwashed by the cult of Kukulkan that there was nothing to be done to de-brainwash her. I want to have more hope in people around that idea. And the idea of killing people who have been brainwashed is not an appealing thought.
All full up. Can't carry any more.
These are different plants with distinctly different berries, but I could not for the life of me tell you if the red berries are endurance herbs or if the blueberries are endurance herbs. Okay, so we should have a Godslayer bow, which definitely feels like that would be the bow to use. Although weirdly, we don't have a Godslayer bow. We got faster health regeneration. That might actually have been somewhat useful. I feel like I'm still going to end up wearing the Serpent Guard outfit though, once I get back into the Hidden City. Let's see. Crimson Huntress. XP from hunting animals. Time slowed down for a longer period requires scales of the serpent skill. Tunic of the exiled fox. It's not the one I think we're going for. Less damage from bullets and arrows. It's not a terrible outfit idea. Less damage from bullets and arrows in that outfit. Significantly less damage from melee attacks. I never take damage from melee attacks anyways. Most of these outfits really just, you're never gonna wear them. It really sucks because of that. I think this Dragon Scales Legend is what we're probably just got, which health regenerates more quickly during breaks in combat. resist fire damage and get knocked down less often in combat, which also just does not happen. We can have the legend version, which is in green, or the regular version. But weirdly, I think it's probably just safer to still have the Serpent Guard outfit on. If I was going to be left to nothing, then, or allowed to just wear whatever I want, I would play around with these outfits. But then here you have this race skin outfit that at no point in the storyline do you actually have to wear this outfit, and it gives you 0 benefit. So why would you wear it? Like, I get the idea of not being forced to wear the kind of joke outfits like the old Tomb Raider, but outfit. And as far as these outfits, I think I've crafted everything. Even though I don't think the game actually gave me an achievement for that. Yahweh's Battle Tunic, Yahweh's Wooden Greaves. There's nothing more on these outfits. And it does seem like the Godslayer item is just not actually a weapon. Yeah, there's no new weapon here at all to upgrade. And as far as I can tell, none of these bows are called Godslayer. So we actually got considerably little from all that. Meanwhile, in skills, I guess the Heart of the Jaguar skill, we have 3 points right now, so let's go ahead and get one of these and see if that unlocks any achievement by unlocking that. Doesn't seem like it, so 3 more skill points would be needed to get this, and then another 3 here, and another 3 here. So somehow I'm supposed to magically get 9 more skills, and seems like at least one of these unlocks through doing the last DLC quest. Let's see. It does seem like maybe... I guess I could just fast travel. Let's just fast travel. Save ourselves some frustration. Zoom in here. And then fast travel here. We're very, very close to being at a point where I can no longer stall about finishing the game, and I am just gonna have to go through the final act. And it's not like we're even grinding in a way that would improve the experience of the game at the end. We don't really need these skills. Okay. Go to the Eastern Mountain. There's a weird amount of things that were flickering there, as if that was supposed to mean something. Maybe I'm supposed to collect this gold and consider that the final thing I'm supposed to get, but actually the final thing I'm supposed to get is a crypt. So that should be pretty obviously marked on the map already. But I'm not going to worry about it at the moment.
Excuse me.
Yes?
I was wondering, have you lived around here for long?
All my life, which makes for a very, very long time.
Then you must have known Amaru when he was younger.
Did I know Amaru? Yes, I certainly did. And that brother of his too. Amaru was the older one. The
I
quieter,
assume I'm
more
supposed to
studious.
listen to this
Both
cutscene,
boys had a passion for the unknown.
and this isn't
for
just some
discovering
weird
the world around them.
extra
But
cutscene.
where Sairi was the explorer, the adventurer, Amaru was the scholar. Together, they were a magnificent team, each one pushing the other to great heights.
So they were close.
Inseparable. All brothers fight from time to time, but these two, they'd settle their disagreements in a matter of minutes, and their bond would be even stronger for it.
And as for anyone else,
Nobody was allowed to get close. It was a game to them, keeping secrets only they knew. They had a secret hideaway, private code.
The
everything.
flame
A
flickers
Yes, they got there
are
by climbing.
getting in
spinning
front of the
pages.
character.
What did they call it?
Bad
the
animation.
Sky Road.
It looks like
That's it.
fireflies or
The road to the sky.
flies.
I'd like to follow that road. Do you have any guesses as to where it might be?
Oh, I don't know if you've noticed, but you're at the base of a mountain. Better start climbing.
So you had to talk to that guy to just make these two characters walk away, which is a very odd experiment on a barrier. It would have just made a lot more sense if he was sitting here and you talked to him and then he stood up and got out of the way. I'm kind of glad that this solves that problem and doesn't potentially just push us to run through this temple. Already full on condor feathers. Not full on emeralds. Suppose I could try and just have a full inventory on everything. Both gold and emeralds too. Of course I'd have to craft. I have to kill a bunch of bugs. And it's probably not worth it. I could probably buy that stuff though with extra money. But I'd still need fat. Again, probably something I could buy. So I guess we're doing the Dragon and the Prince DLC, and as the missions seem, that seems to be the end of it on that. And then that also seems like that potentially could finish a few more of these chains of artifacts, although not all of them.
The Aztec used these to burn incense so they could communicate with the gods.
Okay. So, kind of a place where you would be able to put something and burn
Still
it.
smells of copal.
Censor, spelled C-E-N-S-O-R. And that finished one of those artifact paths. And I wouldn't be surprised if this mule finishes another. Leaving only a couple left. 3.
The peak of this mountain is hidden behind thick clouds. I can't be sure what these two smaller hills on either side of the mountain are supposed to represent.
Notice though it takes forever for things to kind of lock in. As far as all that. And the item we collected there finished one story. What item we collected here finished another story. Which really just highlights how all the items are all over the place. And randomly placed throughout the hidden city. Which, again, I really have to just point out. I am very disappointed in what the hidden city really is. It feels a lot like a hidden city in the second game. Almost like they just copy and pasted a lot of the level design. But also, it's just not shining in gold, which is what I would kind of expect, or it's just not really impressive in any way. There's a ton of houses that don't really matter. You could have scaled it down smaller and it could have been easier to run around, or you could have made it bigger and just had more, I guess, water connecting tunnels to tombs. Again, we're going to search here, which is going to take us to another area, which searching to load into another area is weird. The DLC just not working the way the main game works. And apparently now I'm in water for some reason with no explanation. It is so choppy, cut and paste as far as what happened there. Like apparently we went through here, skipped through this entire segment here to be in the unmarked section here. And there's just not going to be any explanation as to what happened there. I could kind of excuse too if she had like walked out of a thick bush of the forest, and so she would just like walk into a forested area and then walk out of that another thick bush of forested area, so you could show kind of an establishing shot in where she entered and then a connecting shot as to where she left. It also would have been fine if she just had slid down a slippery, watery slide and it ended up with her in this spot, and almost certainly that's what they were planning on doing. Again, the game is using the cutscene to tell us that we can actually attack with guns. Alright. Seems to me like I could just target these two. And it seems to me like that is the only time a headshot will actually kill a helmeted character, is if you have it locked in a larger cutscene segment. Looks to me like he may have almost fell off the edge. You get an arrow plus 2 arrows from that, which that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're supposed to be talking to Elsie, it looks like, is the next part of the quest. For all the times we do see the game have you crawl through a crevice to hide a loading section, I would prefer if some of the times you would have to shimmy on a ledge for a loading section, just to have two options, 2 bits of variety there. That's a way you could have shimmying on a narrow ledge, or even crossing a balance beam, accomplish 2 tasks and slow down the action without there not being really a reason to slow down the action.
All full up. Can't carry anymore.
We do now have all of the items, so let's do something here. So my thought there was I was going to potentially have all 4 of the items enabled, but I guess I can really only have 3 of the items enabled as far as timers go, and then I would have to also get hurt and be in the damage section, damage mode, which I kind of question if there's an achievement around that. What does this X do? I have no idea what that X button just did. Stealth kill would give you the most amount of experience. So if I can get up here, I can only kill so many people at a time though. Interestingly, it just doesn't seem like I can. So you get 5 less XP by doing a headshot. But then you get 10 less XP if you don't actually succeed. And actually get a headshot. So the amount of XP you're getting are really small increments, which maybe is part of the problem. So alright. Alright, we screwed up at this point, so now is the time to just shoot all these people. And noticeably, they're throwing grenades at me, so it's not like these are the Trinity people who are hiding weapons or not using weapons to seem like they are part of PyTD's citizens. Just search everybody we can find. Get as much bullets as we can find. Definitely feels like there's a whole section here that you could have tried to stealth through. It does seem like it's just going to return to normal as far as your stealth section. You move forward, and then interesting. I locked on him. That still didn't count. We're still just hearing them, so we know they're around. So potentially, how much XP did I just lose by the game mostly just devolving back into its run and gun style of gameplay that really is just how you're going to play most of these encounters. If you had to craft bullets, there very possibly would have been a much different experience in a lot of these sequences, particularly if it was very expensive to craft bullets. But bullets are just handed to you quickly and easily, as long as you're not a terrible shot. I assume there's no collectibles in that area per se. This is now, the music is slowed down, so this may be more of a search around and refill your items, or it may just be more of the temple tomb raiding aspect for what little they really do around any of that. There is this odd disconnect between these pitfall traps and the spike traps and the very rarely seen swing traps and the climbing and platforming elements that we see throughout the rest of the challenge tombs with the spinning blades and platforms and fire shooting in different places. It just does not feel like those are all supposed to be of the same
No wonder Amaru had
style.
it so well guarded. This is Cyrie's tomb. There's an inscription in Latin. I will never hesitate again. I wonder what that means. There's also a key.
Who is she talking to?
Right, let's try red in the north.
She's just like describing things. I forgot about this whole codex in this submission.
Dancing
playing
tree,
around it.
Water 9.
Or this
It also means many.
code
Dancing
system,
water
code
near
wheel.
many trees. I think I know what fits that description.
So I guess we're gonna just get fast traveled out of this area, back to the hidden city, I suspect. If not, just to the final location. Dancing water, hidden trees. I have no idea what that means. But what does it matter? We just go that way. It's really that simple. It loaded us back around.
This key was interred with Cyrie's body, which means Amaru put it here. Was he trying to keep it preserved or keep it hidden? Probably both. There's a Mayan symbol on it, similar to the ones on the cipher wheel, representing north.
Never gonna get there.
Red in the north. The exposed symbols are dancing, tree, water, 9 or many.
there's basically nothing we can do here. If we had enough skill points, yes, we could unlock something. But I guess at most that just created a checkpoint. Now we're just walking back in that general direction. I guess I could have also fast traveled in that general direction, but whatever. It feels weird to be in the middle of a side quest and go back to the hidden city, because really that is just a game trying to encourage you to get distracted and lose track, and that's just going to make a worse narrative experience. Whereas obviously I should have done this side mission back to back. I didn't, so I don't remember the first part that would have happened maybe hours and hours ago. We are still weirdly at 97% because I guess there's one survival cache I haven't found, which weirdly it seems like now we have two places where one survival cache is missing, and I don't know if that is the trick. No, it's not a survival cache that we're missing, is it? It's a challenge that we're missing. So I'd have to look up what the challenges are to try and figure it out. I suspect maybe there's a challenge over here messing with the fields, but I'll play with that later. Dancing water mini trees. Okay, so I see mini trees here and I see water. And then that leads to another place to investigate to go to a DLC section. I don't know what we're really going to reveal here. That maybe Amaru is less of a jerk than we think. It does seem like the game has been fairly unwilling to commit to showing him as a jerk. But yeah, maybe this DLC story will give better characterization than what the main story does. We've already directly seen Amaru say that he's only really siding with Trinity and in hopes to keep Petiti safe. Which I guess inherently almost every bad guy probably is doing something that they think is the right thing. But mostly in TV and movies, they're still depicted as being purely evil and knowing what they're doing is wrong and not caring. Which that's rarely the actual case, and it's rarely depicted well. Because there's been such a long drawn out experience doing all these side quests, we've gotten, I think, slightly more characterization on Lara Croft, which just really makes it seem even less likely that at the final act she would try to remake the world. And I don't think the story is going to get particularly interesting or complicated where like she remakes the world and then there's just a lot more gameplay and then she has to remake the world a second time to set it back. Got another high up spinning pole.
Careful, careful.
Although this time it does seem like it's fairly deadly. So clearly they just have like the same idea that was approved and done multiple times. I don't know if this is, I mean, I have to say it's probably a lack of creativity, although in fairness, at least there are 2 spinning poles now. But it might very well be Square Enix. Square Enix, being a Japanese company, may very well, as the publisher, demanded that everything get approved, and communication may have broken down, so something as simple as all tombs must have a spinning pole because we approved that, and we agree with that kind of content being made for the game, and we'll fund that. Like, you could think maybe that's what happened. Generally, what I would suspect, though, is that there was multiple people. Now, it would have had to have been 5 either individuals or groups of people who had 5 very divergent ideas as far as the challenge tombs. If they all wanted to center around a central pole being such a big factor. It also might be that they just didn't care. Yeah. I've certainly talked about the idea of Crystal Dynamics now no longer being involved with Square Enix and being owned by Embracer Group, potentially making a new reboot of Tomb Raider. But there is also a possibility that Crystal Dynamics just does not care about Tomb Raider at this point and wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. The original company, Eidos, I believe it was, that made Tomb Raider, and the original people who worked on Tomb Raider games basically didn't want to have anything to do with it after 3 games of massive amounts of crunch and overworking themselves to death. I wouldn't be surprised if Crystal Dynamics is somewhat alongside the same feeling. Okay, how can we get this to go up higher? It seems to me like the plan would be to have water flow down, but not on broken water wheels. This is the only one that seems like it's not spinning. But I don't see a real way to make it spin. The light here told me to go this way, then nothing in that section told me to go this way. And that's where I'm supposed to go, and I was just having a hard time seeing that because the light's not particularly pointing at that rope. If anything, it's pointing more towards the platform. Which, yeah, I got the general idea that I needed to get to the platform. I didn't see the rope spot. I suppose that would create a weird situation if Embracer Group potentially owns the rights to Tomb Raider and has nobody who really wants to make a Tomb Raider game. Which, yeah, it's believable that Tomb Raider would just go into an Embracer Group Disney Vault equivalent and sit around and we wouldn't see any new announcements for any Tomb Raider games for years, or any development actually being done on any Tomb Raider game for years. That was a very delayed S word, but we're still very much running into far too much cussing. Yeah, if you really think about it, it may be a little unfair to say that 60-hour to 200-hour video games should only have one F word to be like PG-13 equivalents in video games, but honestly, I think that is kind of the unfair equivalency that actually exists in my mind, at least. And yeah, I would want to see Lara Croft if she is going to cuss, which really I think that just kind of makes her even less family friendly when you probably want to try and make her more family friendly. This could be a very family friendly game. They could have been like PG-13 pretty easily. Yes, there's hunting and killing, but you could have gotten rid of the blood, and
I need to reach the other side somehow.
you could have gotten rid of all the cussing, and you could have oh, so I guess that's the way we're supposed to be going. I thought it was going up here. You could definitely try to sell this game as being educational if you it's more educational, I would say, than like Assassin's Creed, which tries to sell itself as having an educational version. Whoops. Wasn't supposed to go that way. I will say, though, it also just kind of feels like there's a level of ridiculousness in most games that do try to sell themselves as being educational. Interesting. So we have a way of flooding, and we have a way of draining. Run through here.
Let's see if I can reach the top now.
It seems like this gate opens just permanently once you spin it
There's
around.
nothing here I can use.
We need to go back up here.
There's nothing here I can use.
That is a really bad hint to get. And I think it's a mistake to really let me get up to the spot when I really shouldn't be able to get to the spot yet. Okay, well, I guess I just have to run through this. I definitely feel like I solved that in a way that was not intended. But I kind of know the next step is going to be to I guess the question to ask would have been, by default, once I had been spun, I could have just swam through it. Yeah, that's the case. So the way they expected you to solve it was to get to this point, come up here, and
There. Progress.
crawl up to this spot. Not doing anything with this, and we weren't supposed to be able to jump up on that platform. Which that is the first point, I will say, where it really does feel like the limited movement technology in this game might actually make some sense. Although you could have just easily solved the fact that I was able to jump up there by not having a ledge there. Because I don't think we're ever going to need to actually stand in that spot. Okay. Okay, so you stand here. We had tied this one to this one. This one is going to weirdly be through a rod down here. So we then need to just drop down, drain the water, and spin it from a lower spot. I don't hate the idea of rods connecting different things and pulley ropes connecting other things, but it just being introduced at the last second here doesn't make a lot of sense. Notice how much work they've gone through here to visually show that this part is connected to this part. So now the proper thing would be to climb up here for the first time. Go back over here. You missed the whole part visually as far as this part spinning. This one is spinning though, so just shoot that and attach that. Okay. That would raise the water more. If I shoot this shouldn't do anything. And yet it still worked. At no other point in the game has a spinning wheel maintained its connection, but in this case it did. And yeah, I just don't think there's any collectibles to worry about. And I guess I just don't have an idea of whether I'm supposed to go that way, or whether I'm supposed to double back on this. Seems to me like we will double back on this section later. Go even higher. But we need to go collect something first. Inconsistency with the whole rope thing. That's something, if I was in a director or a producer of a game, I would definitely always bang the drum on the idea of consistency. Just always.
Ugh, rotten food.
Like,
from Trinity. How did they find this cave?
So is this a case where Amaru was not delivering the food that Trinity was giving them, or was the brother not delivering the food, or is the food possibly poisoned?
The key fits this chest. Maybe the answers are inside.
Weird ancient technology that definitely would not look like that or work that way.
Sairi, here is some food to begin distributing to our people. I wish I'd managed to obtain it sooner, before you went hunting, especially since, as your older brother, the responsibility was mine, not yours. But you have always been as stubborn as the rest of our family. It comes from Trinity, that secret group of outsiders I was telling you about. They have promised me more, but first there is something I have to do for them. You can find me at the old village, beyond the gate that was put up to protect people from the red fungus. Amaru.
Red fungus.
Whatever the secret of this cipher wheel is, I don't think it has to do with the current conflict. I think it's older and much more personal. With luck, I'll find the explanation in the old village.
If anything, it feels like wow, I didn't have to go back to that other section. Wow. So, maybe there was some kind of collectible that I missed. Extra collectible, I guess. Like, if you wanted to go back in there, you can't do it anyway, so you know it really can't be that important of a collectible anyways. Once again, we're going to this old village. The mud. Yeah, my theory is the older brother, Sairi, died before getting that note and getting the food while he was hunting. Which, I don't know if that really means much or changes anything. And to get to this spot, we have to go over here, and they've kind of intentionally made you go from that spot to this spot just so you can see this little shortcut. But this is a great section where there's just never has been and never will be an encounter with enemies where you would sneak around in that way or jump around from area to area. So red fungus, I assume, is going to make us hallucinate. And this is a long DLC story. And I only expect that there is going to be yet another challenge tomb. Although maybe it is a case that it's really closer to 3 unfinished challenge tombs being added together. Her knees are perhaps weirdly bent. Notice that? Like, nobody would stand like that. You couldn't stand like that. You'd fall over. That's slightly more reasonable. I hate to tell a character to stand up straight, but wow, that was a weird bend. Maybe it's because there's a slight slope on the ground. So you can really just flip a coin here. It's probably a tomb. Challenge tomb of climbing and platforming. And then at some point we might fight something at the very end. It would make a lot of sense for you to potentially fight like an Emperor's Jaguar or something. I nearly fell off. I didn't realize I needed to have to hit X.
Amaru mentioned in his letter. It's obviously deadly.
Really? Guess we need to figure out how deadly. Not that deadly.
I need to get the cannon into the right position.
Barely had even seen the cannon. And it's already pointing me to the
I
solution.
need to get the cannon into the right position. Trinity must have put these here. They should still be functional.
So if I'm supposed to go that way, then what the heck is over here?
All full up. Can't carry any more. My dearest Sairi, I'm leaving this for you here at the gateway to my greatest fear, in case I do not return. Trinity have, on more than one occasion, offered me the opportunity to join their number, and for several reasons I've delayed giving them a final answer. But I can delay no longer. They can provide the resources we need to feed Paititi and rescue our city from this terrible famine. So I put my fears aside, willing to risk even my very life for our people. And if I should pay the ultimate price, know that I did so with pride and with no regrets. Your loving brother, always, Amaru.
I suppose there's just no way this could go that Sai and Amaru swapped places and that they were twins. It does kind of feel like something like that could happen. I didn't realize we had gotten to 100% fluency on all the languages too. So it's pretty much done. Except for Siblings Tragedy, which is at 75%. So I guess there is a possibility I missed a collectible while doing this DLC mission.
For that.
And I don't know if there would be a way to go back and get that collectible. It would almost be nice if that was the case, then I wouldn't have to potentially worry about collecting the main game collectibles. Run, jump. Whoops, didn't see that one coming. I guess that was the one time I wasn't in sense mode. Yeah, I suppose if there was more running and jumping stuff that happened. I almost wonder if the S word cussing actually has to do with just how fast you press A. I don't think so though, because there's been times where we have just actively jumped over traps before even really triggering them, and it still is the OS word. And it's still very weird that they do have a second line of dialogue where she says something like crap instead, and she's only said that once, so it seems like they only use that line of dialogue once as a joke. It says the dragon and the prince, which I assume that's the two brothers, and we're not going to fight an actual dragon at the end, or some big mechanical flame-throwing device. I wouldn't be upset if the howler monkeys could hurt you. Perhaps early on in the game they could have introduced the idea that a howler monkey would come close.
Protection. It was to hide this tomb,
and then
Amaru knew it was here.
you would have to shoot that first howler monkey that came close and started howling, or another howler monkey would show up and you would just see her covering her ears, and by the time like a fourth howler monkey showed up, if you haven't shot them, then you would just fall over and pass out and die from the loudness of the howler monkeys. That would also force the player to not play the game as a pacifist,
Space for that.
and or just as a animal lover. Which, yeah, I don't think it benefits this game if if there was, say, an achievement for never killing an animal, which is impossible because you would have had to have fought at least the Emperor's Jaguar. So if there was an achievement like that, it would be an achievement for not killing any animals except for all the times you had to kill an animal to progress the story forward. But this game always had the hunting element, so it wouldn't totally make
The spores
sense.
are too deadly to cross, but I can't pry my way through that barrier.
Okay. Let's just check a question here and make sure spores aren't explosive and or burnable. So I guess we have to go this way. So we have a slightly different experience.
It must be useful somehow.
Where we're
I don't have enough space
not
for that.
capable of.
This is here for a reason. It must be useful somehow.
Interesting.
This is here for a reason. It must be useful somehow.
Assuming that's what she's talking about when she says this, even though you're getting that hint.
This is here for a reason. It must be. I don't have enough space for that. There are 2 lanes and a sledge can be placed in either of them.
Two lanes. It says. So we can push this one way. And then what would this do?
There are 2 lanes and a sledge can be placed in either of them.
You can't just walk through this, can you? And you totally can. Interesting that kills you. Let's see what's over here. So they're introducing a new thing that's only going to be used once, so that we can then pull this, which that's not going to work. I do like the idea of jumping on rooftops.
The sledge is for moving something.
We didn't do as much of it as I thought we might.
Need to raise the cannon.
Okay. From that higher spot, yes, I could try and trigger the cannon, but it's not going to work. It seems weird that you have to pull this physically. Then you're gonna have to pull it with the rope up a hill. We really just don't get this much of a puzzle element anywhere else in the game. Okay. So what's the trick here? thought we would just be jumping around on rooftops a lot and going around in circles and then eventually just getting higher up. Could I shoot this rope and make this fall and make this hit it? I mean, it doesn't seem like we're quite clear of the section we need to be clear of. It does seem like they've opted to do some kind of weird placement of extra collectibles. Okay. So I can hit that. This is now clear. And I guess maybe the idea is that this... Interesting that pulling yourself on that doesn't... Well, it lifts you up. There's really no reason why it should have lifted you up. Does this potentially get in the way? Or does this make a track? If anything, it feels like it makes a track. Let's just cut this and see what happens. We'll just ride it.
I'm gonna have to be quick.
Okay. So from the looks of it, you're supposed to buy yourself a ton of time with this, bringing it all the way this direction. And since it's just a small slope, it's just not going to move that fast. The hint, I'm going to have to be quick. Not particularly helpful if you don't know what to do. So I'm going to cut this, then I'm going to run and jump on the other side. And so we'll just see how far that works. That by far was the least interesting action I've ever seen. And it still feels like this is just gonna explode in my face and kill me. And we have the sliding sound effect. Now, I did notice that the wrong way of setting that off required me to actually tap the X button, where the correct way of shooting the cannon allowed me to use the assistive element, where I could just hold down the X button. No collectible here? Interesting. Do I have a way to really get up? That way, but that's a very wonky jump on a wall, then slide on a wall. I'm not even in the tomb yet, so I'd almost expect this to be potentially a crypt, and you just run into a sarcophagus very quickly. Is this the shortcut? You'd almost think after doing this long challenge they might give you just a massive amount of gold, but I don't see a value of having even like a 10,000 extra amount of gold, all that would do is let players who are playing the game for a second time or following some kind of hints or walkthrough know that they don't really have to grind to find gold or jade anywhere else if there is a jackpot level of resources at the end of a DLC section. Although the DLC does break the balance of the game everywhere else, so wouldn't be surprising if there is just a ton of gold. It is perhaps a bit
so many bodies. I have to avoid those spores.
simplistic, but I almost would make some sense if Lara Croft was potentially collecting currency in these games to fund some Croft Manor style orphanarium, since her parents are died and she would have been an orphan too.
But to his formidable determination, I judge him to be a more than worthy successor to my position. Signed, Dr. Dominguez. It's not a name. It's the title given to Trinity's leader. P.S. We will at once provide Paititi with the food necessary to relieve the famine, as promised to Amaru in exchange for committing to our cause.
So he hesitated to join Trinity, and maybe that's why the food took too long to be delivered, and maybe that's why Amaru's brother died while hunting. I guess that's the idea that they're implying there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trinity actively killed Amaru's brother while he was hunting as a way of forcing Amaru to join Trinity. Yeah, I guess you're just making an assumption here that Lara Croft was raised by a butler or family members, just kind of unnamed characters that really should be more important characters. After the father died, since the mother was already dead. Hey, we're getting that visual glitch, and this is an interesting point to point out that I have the default climbing axe enabled, so the visual glitch doesn't have to do with the skins that you can put on the climbing axe. It seems to just be a physics/visual glitch that happens no matter what, which is not a good thing, obviously. It just highlights that the game is not bug checked anywhere enough. Aim at your enemies to tag them for persistent tracking. So now we have persistent tracking as an option. Again, you wouldn't have had that option at all.
This entire construction
if
is a
you
test for the leadership of Trinity.
if you hadn't
If Amaru
gotten
had
the
fully
DLC.
committed to Trinity sooner, they would have given him the food then, before Sairi went hunting and got killed. I will never hesitate again. Amaru was making a promise to his dead brother in a language no other Paititian could read. There is one person who can confirm all of this for me.
Now it'd be very weird if she ends up just going directly to Amaru and talking to him. Okay, gold back to the old man. Is there? Did we get any new outfit or anything? No. What I would like to check though is if we got all the collectibles, because I think I may have screwed up. Nope. the sibling tragedy quest has been completed totally, which does still put us in line to collect everything in the game, if I so wanted to choose to collect everything in the game. The challenge is still the one thing I'm trying to figure out, as far as just what the last remaining challenge could possibly be, since we've done everything else in this area, and since you're limited on your actual actions. Worst case scenario is that you would just have to talk to people and hear every line of dialogue a second time, third time. We'd think there would be something around all these murals, which I wish there was more of those, instead of just this generic mossy cobblestone buildings. It doesn't feel like it's a city full of history for being a hidden city that seems to have not evolved in its beliefs or way of doing things for a very long time.
Ah, it's you again. Did you find what you're looking for?
I think so. More than I was expecting.
You look troubled. What's on your mind?
Did you ever see Amaru back here after the famine?
You mean after his brother died? I told you they were inseparable. When Sairi died, a part of Amaru died along with him. Not long after it happened, he came back here once, and then never again. He devoted himself entirely to the cult of Kukulkan. I guess his brother's death changed his priorities forever.
It's funny,
Thank you.
most
You've
cults
been more helpful than I can
don't
say.
allow themselves to be described as cults. Odd
Polyonka was right. This
dramatic
wheel
pause
is
there.
important to Amaru. It might be the most precious thing he owns. We have no reason and no right to keep it from him.
Oh, jeez. So now we are just going to Amaru to return the wheel. There was that guy that said the kids were moving everything around and playing a trick on him. I don't feel like we ever did anything with that. Just see how this goes. Weirdly, this also implies that Amaru is not going to die at the end of the story.
Give this to him.
Although,
Amaru!
What did that insolent priest want? What? How? Give me that.
so yeah, I don't know how this cutscene would play out if you'd already finished the story. It'd be kind of crazy if Amaru is still in charge. I'd have to just kind of assume that that Amaru would be dead at the end of the main story, and maybe this would be buried with him, and you'd have a different line of dialogue around that. Let's see. As far as challenges, there's some slight possibility that there would be a challenge around something underwater. I don't know what. We're still at 97% complete, though, weirdly. Like, we're missing... I don't even know what we're missing. It just doesn't seem like the game... We're missing the challenge and only the challenge. Alright. And what could I really assume from challenges is... not really a ton. There was... Let's see, a challenge here. A challenge here. And then I feel like there was a general challenge of diving. Maybe in this upper section. There was a challenge over here. How many challenges are there? 5. So we've seen 3. And then the diving one. There isn't really a challenge in the old village from the looks of it. Although maybe. It is kind of believable that there might be a challenge on one of these side sections. Yeah, here was another challenge. You just can't click on it to even remind yourself. So it's just not really worth it to run around trying things. So I'm just gonna type in on the Google hidden city challenges, and because I've searched from this IP address other things around Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the first result will be resulting from Shadow of the Tomb Raider instead of some other hidden city challenges search, or just in general the most number of people searching that phrase would be Tomb Raider players. Okay, the first challenge was diving from 4 points. Collect 3 condor feathers from nests. Let's see, that's challenge 2. Maybe that's the one I haven't done. No, I'm pretty sure I did that one. Rope pull 5 frog totems. They look like this. Rope pull them. How am I rope pulling them? We've been seeing the frog things before, but I haven't been able to pull out the bow and arrow before. Okay. Well, I know what to do now. Let's go figure out how to do it. Let's find one purple frog totem.
How do you do?
Look what I have
Let's
for you.
see if there's anything possible I could buy to fill up my inventory from either one of these characters.
How is everything?
I'd completely forgotten about the whole Ishiki thing.
Very good.
Which, yes, that means nothing.
Come back soon.
Nothing to me. Alright, so that was as much as I could do with all of that. think I'm going the right direction. I hear the drum beats. It feels to me like I could potentially follow the drumming and find the other lady, the shopkeeper. Oh wow. So changing the weather. You have to have the cursor directly on the frogs to pull them, which basically means there's no way you would have ever figured this out. We kind of know that these are all in the close proximity of each other, so just need to kind of wander around. So many other games have done this better though, where you've been able to pull out your bow and arrow in areas, and then when you just tried to pull the right trigger to shoot it, she would have just said no way. But then at the very least you're meeting the player halfway to make them feel like they actually are in control of Lara Croft instead of just being led by the nose by the gameplay design. I'm not sure we've ever talked to this lady.
Have you come here to escape the bustle of the city? I swear, it gets louder and more crowded every day. The people are changing as well. They desire more and more, be it food or clothing or jewelry. Their eyes dart inside the homes of their neighbors, longing for the items they see. No one seems to be able to find contentment with what they have.
Notice how she's just pantomiming,
Sometimes I
dealing
dream
with
of sneaking away, just getting into one of
the
these
feathers
boats and paddling up the river. I would do that, but this place is all I've ever known. It would be a huge decision. I think I'll need to keep thinking about it. Thank you for listening. I feel as though a cloud has parted.
So you get a safe spot there when, after listening to the lady talk. Oops. Not quite jumping far enough. So there is maybe a possibility of some achievement for talking to every character in the hidden city, but I don't think that's really worth the effort. The last couple of purple frogs potentially are going to be really hard to find and pull. They do stand out visually, I'll grant you that, but there's just not a lot of good positions, not a lot of good perches to look around. I do feel like they are all somewhat in this area. I guess the general idea is that it is in this area, so we shouldn't really look at the top half or over here on the other side of the river. I do agree with that NPC. This is a just noisy village. Noise for not best reasons. I guess I just believe there's probably a little bit more of a difference between a lively city and just a city bustling with far too many background sound effects. Well, I was hoping this wouldn't have taken this long. Then we could finish the challenge, and then that would put us in almost perfect position. We're not exactly in the perfect position, though. There's still that one supply cache that I have no idea where it is in the other section of the game. You would think that the purple flags maybe are an indicator of where the purple frogs are. Yep. I just don't think it's worth running around multiple times looking for it either. So, let me just go ahead and cheat. Since I've already cheated to figure out what I was supposed to do, it's only the next step logical to cheat to find out where the frogs actually are. So I left that page open. Let's see if I can really read these pictures. One is slightly to the left facing here. We'll just go through them all. There we go. And once you pull these down, they're just down permanently. Maybe they respawn after you actually change the weather, assuming you actually change the weather. Let's see. Another one would be slightly to the right facing here. I feel like I got this one already. Although visually doesn't seem like that's quite in the right place. These map pictures are too small. Yeah. Here, I think was one. Although that doesn't look right either. Whatever. Here it is. I found it. Only really successfully cheated with one thing. So we completed that challenge, which now puts us at 100% in the hidden city. 100% complete, leaving everything else over here at 100% complete, except for this DLC mission giver that happens after the main story, except for the very first area, Peruvian Jungle, which is 98% complete, and Cozumel, which is 78% complete. And weirdly, you have this treasure chest that is just not marked on the map. So I have no idea where it's supposed to be. I would kind of assume that it's supposed to be here, but here's an archivist map I've already collected. You can't get back into these sections, so if it was supposed to be there, or if it was supposed to be in these caves at the very beginning of the game, and you're going back after the main story ends, maybe that's it. But yeah, unless I can find those collectibles and the one supply cache that should also be marked on the map, and yet weirdly doesn't seem like it is marked on the map. Unless I can find those, then I'll never be at 100%. I don't even know how you get into this point where this relic is. I think that was closer to Kwakyaku, not the Peruvian jungle. Did the weather really change? Doesn't seem like it did. It's not raining. It doesn't feel foggy. Doesn't feel cloudy. Maybe they added a little bit of fog around the mountains. But time of day didn't seem to change. Weather didn't seem to change. And I'm glad I was able to figure out what the challenge was by looking up and cheating, because I will say my thought was to just hop in each one of these ponds and see if that was a challenge. And there's a decent reason to potentially believe there would be a challenge of some sort around this area, because there just hasn't been one there before. Let's see. Probably should just mark where I'm going, but I guess I don't need to. The green light is pointing me. It's been a long time since we've gotten back into the Skull Cave section. But yeah, next episode we definitely are going to pull the trigger and move to the final act. We'll possibly have some post-game element there too. We're going to talk to this lady who felt like she'd probably be more of a character, but
what happened? I returned the cipher wheel.
They
to
just
Amaru.
didn't make that
Its
many
messages
quests.
have no value to the rebellion. The wheel is personal, a keepsake that represents Amaru's love for his brother Sairi.
And you couldn't use that for even a second to knock him off his stance and confuse him?
One of them contained food which he had gotten from Trinity to help during the famine. But Sairi never received the message, because by then he'd already died.
Amaru wasn't always the man he is now.
Whatever his faults, he still believes in doing what's best for Paititi.
I know. He's always held this city and the people in it close to his heart.
Along with his regrets.
Suppressed pistol weapon and an achievement. Cutting edge boots for running quieter. That's the end of the Dragon and the Prince quest. Still ridiculous that you get like 3 notifications when you finish something, regardless of how you played. You're always going to have that same experience. So let's just get down to brass tacks here. With this, and doing all of that extra DLC stuff, I've gotten almost all the way there, but I am still 6 skill points away from unlocking everything. Which puts you in this weird situation where you're not likely to want to play the game a second time if you just to get those last 6 skill points. You also have these, I assume, somewhat extra elements. Mother Protector Eternal Reward is probably in the final act as far as the last skill you get, which almost feels like this might just be a skill that lets you wear any outfit in the hidden city after the point where it really won't matter. I don't think the gun that we just collected is going to need to be upgraded. I don't even know which one it was. Silent Sting. Silent Sting Scorpion. So, yeah. Feels like we had Silent Sting to begin with, and then we had Silent Sting Scorpion. Kind of just doesn't matter what we take. I think the handgun in particular is by default the best. I think the Vickers Mark II is the best gun. And as far as shotguns, Whispering Scourge Pandemic does more damage. But maybe this one does more distance. Just put everything on its default setting. Now the recurve bow is obviously not the best bow in the game. And I don't think I have to actually craft anything here. Or do I really feel like I'm unlocking a ton of extra outfits? Yeah. Everything is already acquired as far as outfits go. And we haven't upgraded any of this equipment in an extremely long amount of time. So, yeah, let's save the game. Last time we saved, we were at 91% complete. Now that we've done a bunch of DLC stuff, we're at 92% complete. That is perhaps disappointing, but maybe it means that there is just a whole nother section overall that we have yet to touch upon. As far as side missions go, DLC or otherwise, we are done. As far as challenges go, it looks like we're done. This menu is pretty awful. As far as the artifact chains, we're not 100% done.
This is Tonati.
Pantheon of the Gods still needs to be filled in, and the Resistance still needs to be filled in. And I assume these are happening in the final acts. Otherwise, those are just the last 2 collectibles. We've spent, I think, close to 6 to 12 hours. That's a wide range, I know, but I'll just guesstimate. Just doing extra collectathon stuff, doing the side missions, and collecting all the collectibles throughout the world. And I regret, for the most part, I think I'm going to regret collecting the collectibles because it didn't get me enough XP to unlock everything. Now, I guess I probably would have had 6 more skill points if I had managed to stealth kill every single enemy we fought throughout the game in every single stealth kill section. But I don't think that's very reasonable that many players would have pulled that off. Remember, I am playing on easy, so if anything, the game should be giving me more XP. It really feels like for every kill I should be getting at least 100 XP, and then they should rebalance the amount of XP you need to level up accordingly to that. It maybe makes sense that you would hunt animals and only get 50 XP. But yeah, getting like 5 XP every time you kill an insect is too much. Getting 35 XP every time you stealth kill or headshot a enemy is far too little. We have 15,000 gold pieces and nothing to spend it on. We have almost a complete amount of resources for everything. We need more feathers if we're going to get everything more fat. We would need more gold, more jade, and we would need more poisons of the 2 kinds of poisons that exist. If I was going to actually go for that. Noticeably though, the achievements have not really gone up much. Completing the DLC Dragon and the Prince was done by 15.6% of players, and overall I have maybe 59 out of 99 achievements completed, which definitely makes it feel like there's 40 achievements potentially, or at least 30, that are built around the now non-existent multiplayer, which means you'll never get 100% of achievements on Steam, which means you'll never get highlighted as, this game will never be highlighted as being completed 100% as far as the achievements go, which is the only thing Steam does, is it highlights how many games you've 100%ed as far as achievements are concerned, to, I guess, brag or show off that you play the game, play games very thoroughly. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.